Welcome back to A Slice of News, where I cut you off a slice of news. Trump is not well, a fact that anyone paying attention to the last month or so, or really the entirety of his second term in office, could probably already have intuited. But that was part of what New York Representative Daniel Goldman posted on social media Sunday, following a report by the Wall Street Journal that revealed that the president's military advisors intentionally excluded him from the command room during the recent high-stakes operation to extract a downed U.S. airman in Iran, because they feared the mission would be jeopardized by his erratic and seemingly unhinged behavior, reportedly having spent hours screaming at White House aides, apparently fearing the political fallout of and fearing he might become the next Jimmy Carter in a disastrous hostage situation with Iran. Melting down like that as the President of the United States comes off as deeply unpresidential. That's likely the sentiment that motivated Representative Goldman to write, "The Commander-in-Chief was excluded from commanding a military operation because he was acting so crazy." Think about that. Trump is not well. We need the 25th Amendment before something really bad happens on U.S. soil. And as they say, no notes. I completely agree with him there. In times like these, we need a leader that's level-headed, calm, and not prone to fits of irrational anger and yelling. It seems almost ironic that we have a leader that is obsessed with projecting this image of power and strength and stoicism when behind closed doors he's anything but, and is irrational, angry, fearful, weak, some might even say. It's hard not to see just how tense and strained relations are between Iran and the United States, partially because actions taken by this administration to make them be as bad as they are right now. And while I, of course, do not want another terrorist act on the homeland like we had on 9/11, it feels increasingly possible that something like that could happen, and if it did, Donald Trump is the last person we want at the head of our nation and in charge of the response to it if it were to occur. If the worst were to happen, what we need is a president that would be more the only thing you have to fear is fear itself, and calming the nation, versus what we have right now, which is a man who likely would inflame the nation and probably tell them he's gonna bomb them all to hell now. I do understand that being president must be unbelievably hard, more so than us regular people could imagine, and only exponentially so in a time of international crisis like we find ourselves in now. But if our leader's first reaction to a crisis is to bemoan how it affects him personally and not about the situation itself or how it would affect the country as a whole, it's both incredibly telling and incredibly concerning. While it's a bit reductivist and maybe not entirely accurate, the President of the United States is kind of like the country's dad. So if your dad is yelling and screaming when something happens to you, complaining about how bad this is going to look for him, you would have to really wonder how fit of a parent this is. Maybe even make you wonder if he's fit to be a parent at all. I feel like that's what Representative Goldman is getting at. Dad's acting crazy, and the kids are scared that maybe he needs to be removed. In this metaphor, invoking the 25th Amendment of the Constitution is the way to get Daddy Trump away from the kids. But much like getting an unfit parent away from their children in real life, using the 25th Amendment against the president is certainly not easy, to a point that it's basically only a pipe dream. Something that certainly sounds good and maybe even necessary, but actually putting it into action seems nearly impossible right now. As a bit of a refresher, in case you don't remember the constitutional amendments from back in middle school, the 25th Amendment of the Constitution says that the Vice President and a majority of the Cabinet may vote to declare a president unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office and effectively remove the president from power, with the vice president then ascending to acting president. And of course, right there is where we run into the biggest issue. While potential future acting president J.D. Vance would probably have no real issue flipping on Donald Trump, since he has really no genuine loyalty to him, President Trump's cabinet are all handpicked loyalists, die-hard Trump acolytes who would never vote to remove him from power, no matter how outrageously unhinged and incompetent he may seem. It honestly would not shock me if that was part of his plan when assembling his cabinet in the first place, putting people in the position who were so loyal to him that no matter what he did, they would never vote to remove him. He would be insulated entirely. Counting on them to do what must be done is largely a non-starter. They could do it, but they would never do it. Congress would have the ability to do it with a 2/3 majority vote to expel the president from office. But much like the president's hand-chosen cabinet, the Republican-held Congress would likely never agree in a majority to remove Donald Trump from office. Congressional Republicans have shown time and time again that they choose party over country whenever they have the opportunity. And to them, Donald Trump is the party, and they will choose his benefit over anything else, no matter what the cost for the rest of the country. It's why the president has been impeached so many times but never convicted and removed from office, because you could never get a majority of Republicans to agree that he had done things so bad that he needed to be removed from the presidency. If our nation was a ship, we have a captain who is wildly spinning the wheel and clearly driving us off the edge of the earth itself. You have the crew saying, this man has to be stopped. We have to take his hand off the wheel. But then we have more of the crew saying, absolutely not. We want him to drive this boat. We don't care where it takes us. And how dare you even question his ability to drive this ship? We're on fire, and the 25th Amendment is the fire extinguisher. But the break in case of fire glass is 6 inches thick, and all we can do is look at it and really wish we had it at our disposal when we needed it most. On top of their seeming undying loyalty to their dear leader, neither the vice president, the president's cabinet, nor congressional Republicans would want to take Trump out of office right now, 200 days before a midterm election they are already looking at taking major losses in. So having the president removed for being erratic and incapable of doing his job would likely hurt their already meager chances of retaining power even further, because it would certainly destabilize the confidence the Republican voters have in the Republican leadership as a whole. So they can't break ranks and go against their leader. They can't undermine his authority and power and make him look weak and themselves as well by association. So at the moment, we're kind of stuck with this clearly unhinged, unwell man as the head of our country for the next 7 months at least. Because while it's definitely true that 2/3 of the current Congress would never vote to expel Donald Trump from the presidency, after these upcoming midterms, when Democrats are likely to take a lot of power back in Congress, that the 2027 Congress will have enough Democratic power behind it that they will have the votes to expel Donald Trump using the 25th Amendment with a 2/3 majority vote. And maybe that's in part what Representative Goldman was getting at. Less so that we could count on the current Congress to vote to remove using the 25th Amendment, but to say to the upcoming Democratic-led Congress, once we're in power, this is what we got to do, because President Trump is at a point where he is a danger to the nation as a whole. The fact that our president is erratic and unwell and needs to be removed for our own protection is not new information. So maybe he's less trying to tell us something we didn't already know, and more saying this is something that has to get dealt with as soon as it is viable to do so, such as when the new democratically led Congress is seated next year following the 2026 midterm elections. Less sounding the alarm and more calling the shot. It may not be something that can happen right now, but when it is, it must happen. The Trump presidency has unquestionably been a disaster, and everything going on with Iran has only underscored just how much. Donald Trump has needed to be removed from office basically as soon as he took office, but that need has seemingly only grown greater as time has gone on, and he has shown how deteriorated he has become and how poor of a leader he has become as a result. Donald Trump is unwell and has been so for quite some time, and having a man like that lead our country and make decisions that affect all of us and put us possibly at serious risk of attack feels incredibly unsafe and bad. So for our own collective well-beings, we have to get him out. So if the cabinet and the vice president won't do it, and the current Congress won't do it, the next Congress absolutely must, and hopefully will. Invoking the 25th Amendment of the Constitution and removing Donald Trump from office permanently feels like a complete fantasy right now. But given how dire things have gotten and how much more dire they're likely to get in the next half year, I can only hope it is a fantasy that will soon be made reality, because I'm not sure the nation is going to survive another 2.5 years of Donald Trump and not without serious consequences. Alright guys, that'll be it for this episode of A Slice of News. I've been your host, Mr. Slice. Until next time when I cut you off, another Slice of News. And don't forget to rate and review the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you find it.